prepare your executive summary, you would know how each and every task was met, how was it completed, when was it completed. So you'll be in a good position once you are mentally prepared, once you have a good business plan within your mind before the overall process begins. So these are some of the points which are required to be considered, and it should be helpful when you actually start the process of writing an executive summary. The TOCs are generally known as the table of contents. If you have seen, we have been reading books right from we started our general reading in earlier classes. If you remember, generally it's our habit to just read from where the teacher tells us to read. They used to tell us the page number from where just start giving a reading to the text. But gradually with the passage of time you started to look into the initial pages, that what used to lie ahead. It was my habit as well that in addition to what's there within the main body, I used to go towards the initial pages and I used to find material related to something like acknowledgements, letter by the writer, dedications. So these are basically known as the initial pages. And within those initial pages, there is a special page that used to come where some headings were there along with numbering. And in addition to that, on the right hand side, some page numbers are also written adjacent to each section. This is basically the table of contents, and it's provided in all sorts of books, including the dissertations. And in a similar way, you have this table of contents within the report writing as well. Now, what's the basic significance? Why is it so important? We can talk about it in journal as well, but with reference to the report writing process, these are the things, and that is how it is important. I will discuss it in context of report writing, as it gives a reference to the scope of the whole report. It tells you how this thing has been structured and what is it basically about. So it defines and it gives this reference to the scope of the report writing. The first thing which is achieved by TOCs. The next thing, of course, is that it provides a detail of the page numbers. Different sections are on different page numbers. So it's a reference to the information that you are seeking. Then if we move onwards, you can call it as the first step towards the organization of the data. Like we started our discussion by defining the report as a structured form of writing. Although technical writing itself is also well structured, but this structured form of writing is well organized, and that organization basically begins by the provision of the TOC, the table of contents. Then if we move onwards, it is based on this decimal system. Now what do we mean by this decimal system? We have studied mathematics, and within mathematics there is a small dot that we place after a number. Like if we talk about some fractions, 1, 1.5 and then 2. So this use of point and making it 1.5, so you are using basically a decimal. Now this decimal is also used within the preparation of the table of content, as it helps you to divide in a similar way as we did by dividing and showing that there is a number or there is a figure, there is a value between 1 and 2, and that is 1.5. In a similar way, we divide our sections as well, that between two sections there is another section, and that subsection could be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, but that is the manner in which you divide your content. Another reference of here is that why are we organizing it and why are we dividing it into different sections and subsections. giving back the reference of the nature of the readers. If there is a general reader, of course, he would like to know all the details of the manner, the procedure, the findings. So certainly he would try to go into the methodology. And within the methodology, he would like to read all the sections. So if he is confused by reading the executive summary and would like to know what basically is the method on the basis of which the writer has provided some finding, so first of all, he would try to look into the methodology section and the different subsections which are part of that methodology. So rather than going right from the start to the very end, he can go straight away to look at point number 3 or section number 3, where you are providing the methodology. Now talking about the technical reader, let's suppose there is a technical reader who would like to just read the statistics and the facts and figures. So where do you think he would be interested? Think methodology or the main body? That is not the case. As I told you earlier, that he is clear about everything and he just wants to know what are the figures, and he is in a position to interpret the data all by himself or herself. So where would he be going? Section 4 and its subsections. And if you have provided the TOC, it would help you and him and her as well to know where to look at what data. And if we talk about the managerial readers, they do not require that much of division. If they are not interested to go into the detail, they'll just focus on at the very first the executive summary. So now have you realized the importance of the TOC? It's not just something which is just provided as an extra page at the beginning of a book. It has a significance. It has a purpose. Now coming back to the point number 4, when I said the decimal system. So what do I mean by the decimal system and how do we basically divide it? If I tell you that we have this introduction and we say that this is 1. So this 1 is basically heading 1 and the first level of heading. And we call it as the first degree of heading. Now under this first degree of heading, let's suppose there are some subsections within that introduction. So you're not going to just write those headings all by themselves. No. You have to assign and allocate a specific number in decimal form under the main first degree of heading of introduction. Let's suppose if I say that within that introduction now is coming the section of your purpose, and then let's suppose you say that you have to talk about the method, the expected outcome. So there are 3 subsections that are coming under the main heading of the introduction. So you're not just going to write these headings without any number. You have to move towards allocating a number of the second degree of heading. And how you're going to do it, you will say 1.1. Then you're going to give this method 1.2 and this one as 1.3. Are you following me? Hopefully you are getting the idea how first degree of heading is different from the second degree of heading. So basically second degree of heading is coming under the first degree of heading. And now moving onwards, making it even more interesting for you, you will see and you will notice within multiple dissertations that there are subsections of a subsection, subsection. So in that scenario and in that situation, you just don't leave it to the second degree of heading, but you can also say that, let's suppose we need to talk about the design, the population, the sample used, the data, the manner in which it was collected. So under this 1.2 would come 1.2.1, 1.2.2. Now this basically is known as the third degree of heading, and that is how levels of heading, small or the next level of headings come under the first level of heading, then the second comes under the first, and the third comes under the second. In a similar way, if we talk about number 2 as the first level of heading, so you're going to write the next level as 2.1, 2.1, and the third level of heading would come as the 2.1.1. So that is how you divide and use decimal system within the preparation of your DOC. Now this is basically just giving you an idea of the difference between the different levels of heading or the degrees of heading. But still, within this age of technology, within this age of online learning, you still have multiple forums, including many videos where it's very much helpful for you to understand how to prepare POCs. There are multiple videos available, and you can just check them out on these different sites, including YouTube, of course, a big forum. And I also watched a very good video on how to prepare a table of contents, and it's very much easy for you. Even if you just view it, you'll have a good idea how you can easily prepare a table of content using your Microsoft Word, because on the very right side there are different levels of heading which are provided to you. So if you go towards the first level of heading, you just write them first of all the headings within the Word document, and then you assign them a first level of heading. Then moving onwards, if there are some subheadings which are coming under the main headings, then after writing them down under the Microsoft Word document, then you highlight, then you select those different headings, and then you just click on the next level of heading, and they will automatically become the subsection of the main section. Then there is an option, of course, on the left hand side where you just select the table of content. There are different modes, the classic model, or you can even customize your own table of contents, but that is all. It has become very much easier. So the basic purpose was to just give you an idea of what basically is a table of content, what basically is the significance of a table of content, and then you can of course say that now you're in a position to prepare a table of content like this one. So you see, not that much detailed as I told you, but you will find multiple books where you have subsection and sub-subsections of the main section. But that is on the left hand side you have the different sections, and on the right hand side you have the specific page number on which you can find that information. So hopefully you have a clear idea of how you can prepare your own table of contents. So now you are clear about preparing your table of contents. Now we can move towards the next section, which is the introduction. The introduction, although coming right after the table of contents, but it gives you the big picture of what the whole report was about. There are many things which are part of this section and which would be explained in the upcoming examples as well. But these are the important points to know before preparing your introduction. First and foremost, giving you a big picture, right from scratch to the very end. The next thing to remember is that it should provide the picture of the context. Whenever you are given a task of preparing a report, so you will be given a situation, you shall be provided with a background, and that background has to be explained to your target audience and to your readers. if they know the background or the scenario in which that report has been assigned to you and the things that you have to focus, only then they will be able to proceed and they will be able to understand the basic content lying within that report. So, the introduction should describe the context in which you have carried out that study. The next thing is the subject matter. Background is just setting the environment or the situation in which you have carried out the study. But what basically have you analyzed? Or what was the basic subject? Let's suppose you're carrying out an experiment and there are certain things which you are analyzing. So those things that you are studying and investigating are your subjects. In case of an experiment, the tools which are being used, let's suppose if I give you the example of science and biology. So if there are certain tests and experiments being performed on plants or animals, so those are your subjects. That is your subject matter. And it has to be explained on one hand. And secondly, if you are studying that behavior, that is also part of your subject matter. And it needs to be explained as well when you talk about writing an introduction. In case of a business scenario, you're given a situation and you have to study, let's suppose now if I talk about the behavior of working professionals. So that behavior becomes your subject matter and your population is your subject that you are investigating, that you are studying. So these things have to be explained very explicitly within your